Welcome to our new political podcast for NBC 10. I'm Lauren Mayk. We are excited to have a new way to bring you politics, and we're launching this at a time when there are some big races being decided. The US Senate race in Pennsylvania and the governor's race. And it's not just about who is chosen to fill those seats, but also what the impact of those decisions will be. Who's going to control the US Senate in Washington? What will the future of things like abortion, education, taxes be in Pennsylvania? These are the things that are going to be decided by these elections. Now, if you've been watching our coverage, you have probably seen me asking politicians questions, and we are going to continue to do that as much as possible. But we also want to bring you stories from the people who are choosing the politicians, and that's where we're going to start today. Recently, I went out to Wilkes-Barre, where former President Trump was holding a rally with some of the Republican candidates for Senate and for governor. Dr. Mehmet Oz for Senate, Senator Doug Mastriano, who is running for governor. And I talked to people outside as they were waiting in line to get in about why they were there, what's important to them, and how they feel about some of these candidates. And you will find that they didn't all feel the same way. So we're going to hear from some of them, and we're also going to bring into our conversation Chris Borick. He is from Muhlenburg College. He heads up the Institute of Public Opinion there, and he's going to join our conversation about what we're hearing there. But let's first start with one of the conversations that I had outside this rally. You're going to hear from Liz Davis, who is from Scranton. Take a listen.
Trump watch. I've got my Trump bracelets, my Trump shirt, socks, shoes. Underwear, but I won't show you that.
Your earrings are good. This is my grandmother. She has Trump underwear on too.
I don't know if I should believe that, but we're just going to take it. So tell me why you're here today.
I'm here to support Oz. I'm here to support my people, but most of all, my president, President Trump. He's got my backing. He's got the backing of many people of different races and colors, and he's a uniter. He's not a divider, and I want everybody to know that. We're here nice and quietly to support our man.
Did he get your vote twice?
Yes. Yes.
Are you hoping he runs again?
Yes. Yes. I have a cardboard Trump man that I'm waiting. As soon as he announces, I'm putting him in my front window. And I've got Trump flags all over my home, outside, so everybody knows who I'm voting for.
You mentioned Oz, who's running for Senate. President Trump endorsed him in the primary. Did that push you toward him, or did you?
Yes, it did. Yes. If Trump likes him, I like him. Because I know he knows his friends. Well, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Right? But yeah, I vote for, if he endorses him, then I'm going to vote for him. Yep.
So that counts for Oz and then Mastriano as well?
Yes. Okay. Whoever he endorses, I'll vote for.
How are you, we've got an election a couple months away. How are you feeling about their chances this year?
Absolutely fabulous. I think we're going to take back the House, and we're going to take back the Senate, and we're going to bring back America again. We're going to make it great again.
We know we won.
Yes, yes, we won in 2020. Yes, yes. We need voter ID. We need honest elections.
Go ahead, what were you thinking?
I know, because Trump won 2020. It was stolen.
Yeah.
We've seen the proof. We watched it happen live.
Yeah.
Where the votes flipped overnight.
Where are you talking about?
TV, Fox News. And then all of a sudden, you wake up and he lost.
So that's a good place to stop and bring in Chris Borick from Muhlenburg College. He's a professor there and also director of the Institute of Public Opinion. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Lauren, and congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited about it. So you heard those comments there outside the Trump rally from Liz Davis and also another woman who jumped in. That was Sue McConnell, who I was also talking to there. And they were talking about, at the end there, about the 2020 election and repeating that that claim that it was stolen and that President Trump won. That is something that he continued to claim inside the rally, once he went inside, he then told his supporters that he had run twice and won twice. There was also a sitting member of Congress who told the same thing to the audience. So what is the impact of that, of hearing that repeated over and over again?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a very important question, not only in electoral politics, but in the health of the democracy in Pennsylvania. But we'll start with the electoral politics. Yeah, we poll this a lot, Lauren. Public perceptions of the 2020 election. Was it fair? Was it accurate? And there's an enormous divide across Pennsylvania in views on that, which largely are overlaid with our partisan affiliation and our votes in that election. So for individuals in Pennsylvania that voted for Donald Trump, President Trump at the time, in Pennsylvania, there's a large degree of belief that the election was neither fair or accurate. And that's been, we've polled this over the last 2 years, it's been pretty steady. Why is that the case? Well, there's a lot of factors, but one is more or less what some of those individuals up in Wilkes-Barre were saying is the president said so, then it is. The belief that if President Trump said it was stolen, we're going to accept it. As you could see by those two voters, there's deep trust in the president and his messaging. And on this particular issue, you saw it grow over time, the distrust in the 2020 election as the cues from leaders, not only former President Trump, but other Republicans, including, as you said, people that are in the U.S. House representing Pennsylvania, have doubled down on that. And they continue to. And that, of course, has implications for how people might be engaged in various races right now. But in the long term, I think it's an enormous issue that we have to consider about the health of our democracy. If you don't have trust in the elections, you don't accept the legitimate winners, it really starts to cut away at the strength and health of a democratic system.
And it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, actually from Georgia, who was at that particular rally talking about it. And we've heard President Biden recently try to take this head on at a speech in Philadelphia and talk about the issue of people not accepting election results. And I can tell you from talking to people outside that Trump rally, they were not happy with what President Biden had to say. So I wonder, is he reaching anyone with that message?
Yeah, it's interesting, and certainly the tenor, the rhetorical devices that President Biden turned to in his speech here in the Commonwealth on democracy and on the threat that to use the word threat from MAGA Republicans, as he framed them, was a departure from Biden's overall approach to this issue. Right? He likes to try and at least make efforts to turn to bipartisanship as his cornerstones, kind of his life in the Senate and how he approaches the issue. But he took a much harsher, if you will, tone in that speech, and it got the attention of lots of Republicans, and it's seen as the president being much more biting and attacking on these issues. And I think he believes, the question might be raised, Lauren, why has he changed? And this is a change for him. One is I think he senses a real threat, as we talked about, to the health of the democracy if these approaches continue, basically denying a legitimate election. But he also thinks, I believe, in this electoral cycle, that it's something that might help further energize Democrats in an election cycle, a midterm that's often tough to the president's party, that if you could raise the stakes and say, look, this is not just an election about policy or others, this is an election about the health of the democracy and the threats to the democracy, you have to get engaged. So I think he's trying to energize the Democratic base and even some swing voters that might be really worried about the direction of the democracy on the whole.
All right, let's we're going to move on from that initial conversation, and we did stop it there because we want to be clear that that former President Trump did not win the 2020 election, nor did he win in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to move on to some other folks who we talked to, Tom and Tammy Gard. They are from East Stroudsburg. Let's listen to some of my conversation with them.
Tell me why you guys are here today.
Just here to be with like-minded individuals, people that love this country, people that feel that we've been heading in the wrong direction for the past 18 months. And we're here to support our country and, as this gentleman said, the greatest president that this country's ever had.
Obviously, former President Trump's going to be speaking tonight. So is Dr. Oz. So is Doug Mastriano, other candidates. Are you supporting those candidates that he endorsed as well?
Yeah, I believe those people that are believe in making America great again. I'm all behind those candidates. That's why we're here. You know, we want to make America great again. You know, it was just 18 months ago that we were energy independent. Inflation was not through the roof. And, you know, anybody that's being reasonable can say the country's heading in the wrong direction. And, you know, President Biden spoke the other night. That was not a speech that was meant to unite. I think that was more divisive than it was anything else.
How are things, you talked about the difference between when President Trump was in office compared to now. How are things different for you and your family now than they were 3 years ago?
Everything is more expensive. There's no denying it, you know. The cost of gas to get back and forth to work, through the roof. Food, more expensive. Everything is more expensive. And that has an impact on everybody's pocketbook, you know. Ours.
And the isolation, that's a big thing for me. We have grandkids and we still have a son in school that has not been in school.
Right. You know, mandates that were pushed on us over the last 18 months.
It is not fair to keep our kids out of school. You know, they need to socialize, they need to be with other kids. It is not fair.
I won't let you lose your place in line, don't worry. I'll keep an eye on it for you. But how do you say you're also supporting Dr. Oz and Doug Mastriano as they go for their offices. What do you think their chances are? How are you looking at those races? Because it's not a presidential year.
Look, if you look at the enthusiasm behind these candidates, behind the Republican slate of candidates, it's through the roof. All you got to do is look at the people that are willing to stand here in the heat, thousands of people for hours, to be around like-minded individuals, you know, supporting the message of making America great. And I believe that's what this Republican slate of candidates is behind.
So we heard several things there. First of all, some emotion about going through the pandemic and what that was like for them. Also some enthusiasm about how the excitement and support at the Trump rally would translate in the election, which of course is one of the big questions, right? And let's bring back Chris Borick from Muhlenburg College. What did you take from that?
Yeah, Lauren, I think it was really insightful to hear those supporters of the former president and obviously loyal Republicans in terms of this electoral cycle to the Republican nominees for office in the state describe how they see the issue. And two things that stood out, right? I think on inflation, that issue that the voter from East Stroudsburg described, it is undeniable. Inflation has been at 40-year highs in the United States, including in Pennsylvania. And that issue absolutely benefits Republicans. It's something that people feel. When you poll on this, overwhelmingly, Republicans score better, Republican candidates, than Democrats on the issue. The Democrats in some ways own the issue because they are in power in Washington, and that's how politics works. And so inflation continues to be a factor that boosts Republican chances. The voter talked about energy on the Republican side, and indeed, there is lots of energy the Republican side. And that's part of, in groups like this that we saw there that are, energized around a particular movement, if you will, the MAGA movement. But it's just a broader political cycle too. We see this almost always in midterm elections when the president's party, in the one that's in power, energizes the out party, in this case, the Republicans. And Republican voters in this cycle, like lots of past cycles, have had an edge in terms of measures of energy. When we poll on this question and who's more energized, Republicans have had that edge. Interestingly and importantly, that edge has shifted in terms of its margin over the course of the summer after the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, where Democrats have become much more energized than they were before the decision. So it's narrowed the gap. But I won't disagree with the voter from East Stroudsburg that there is energy on the Republican side, because there is, and it's both historical, cyclical, and tied to the president and his group of followers.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how Dr. Oz and Doug Mastriano may or may not benefit from some of this enthusiasm. I want to play some of my conversation with Becky Carr and Ashley Carroll. They are from the Pottsville area, and they had a different take on some things.
So I was at the Hershey rally. We had a great time there. It's her first time.
Yes.
So I needed to drag her along and just experience it, see what it's like, and honestly just have a great time with everybody else. Like, this is awesome.
The energy is amazing here. It's just people, peace, love, everything.
You can stop covering.
So, did you vote for President Trump in 2016 and 2020?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, we both did.
Yes.
Are you hoping he's going to run again?
Absolutely.
We're hoping. He's going to announce it tonight.
I doubt he will, but we're hoping for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're excited.
How do you feel about Dr. Oz and Doug Mastriano, who he's also supporting?
I'm a little bit mixed about Dr. Oz, just because it's the typical Hollywood person. But I'm eager to hear what they have to say going into the election season and everything. I'm open-minded about it, but I'm a little questionable on it as well.
Okay. And so in the primary,
Correct.
did he get your vote in the primary?
Dr. Oz did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you? How are you feeling about him?
Same exact way, mixed feelings, all Hollywood. Like Mastriano, though, a little hard. We need that. But Dr. Oz, it's up in the air, but we want Republican, so.
So you like Mastriano. What about you? Like Mastriano? What about you?
I'm leaning towards him as of right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What gives you a little bit of pause?
Everything. I mean, I'm going to question every single election and every single person. I will question everything no matter what. But I am leaning towards him as of, well, I did for the voting, but I am still, you're always optimistic, but you're always going to question once push comes to shove. So that's the thing. We see what got elected and now we see what's happening and everything that's questionable now. So I will always have questions, but until I see what's going on, just eagerly waiting for that.
Okay. So they both have to convince you.
They always will. They always will.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about some of the issues that are going to be, talked about a lot in this race? Abortion is one that we know became a bigger issue after the Supreme Court weighed in. How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty passionate about the whole abortion stance, but I'm also gray with it as well. If you don't know by 8 to 10 to 12 to 16 weeks that you don't want it, or there's the medical concerns, I'm gray in that. I do understand with rape cases and problems with the pregnancies that may happen, that may affect the mother as well. I understand abortion to that effect, but if you're going 6 months in and you want an abortion, that's pretty messed up to me. I don't like that.
What about you? Would you like to see it? Would you like to see a ban in
I
Pennsylvania?
would not like to see it banned. I mean, it's just so hard to put different laws and regulations on so many different topics because, like she said, you have rape, you have all these other different things. It's just so hard. But then at the same time, I mean, if you're just going out and getting, but
It's not a form of birth
yeah,
control.
it's not a form of birth control exactly. But it should not be banned completely. It should not.
Yeah.
So we also talked about what their options are if they don't feel comfortable with one or the other of the Republican candidates on the ballot. Take a listen.
But I'm definitely leaning away from Oz at this point.
Oh, leaning away from us.
Yeah.
So would that mean writing someone in, or would that mean voting for John Fetterman, or
Like that's my problem too.
just not voting in that race?
I like John Fetterman though a little bit. Yeah, he has the core values you need, but you want that Republican chair, so you're put in that position where you're, what do you want? And it's hard for that decision.
Yeah.
We guys have a little bit of time to decide.
Of
Not
course, not too much. No.
Is there anything that you need to hear from either Oz or Fetterman to make up your mind?
At this time, I don't think there's anything until I hear it, then I'll know. Then it will trigger it. But as of right now, I just need to keep an open mind on both of them. And I'm sure I will hear what I need to hear when it gets closer to it.
We're back with Chris Borick from Muhlenburg College, and there's an example where these candidates, they still have some work to do, even in this crowd.
Yeah, Lauren, I thought I was really fascinated by the discussion you had with those voters, and I think it's illustrative of some of the challenges that Republican statewide office seekers this year are facing in those Oz and Mastriano for varied reasons. As we look at, I think one of the issues that's really, I think, limited the Oz campaign was talked about his image that he's outsider. He's a Hollywood figure that's dropping into Pennsylvania without a lot of connection to the state. And he's going up against an individual in the form of Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who has this brand as quite different, political figure, someone that's, been working in places like Braddock, Pennsylvania. His image matters, I think, to voters of how he portrays himself, how he looks, and it's very different than a lot of politicians. So these are people at a Trump rally going to see Donald Trump. Their Trump endorsed candidate in Dr. Mehmet Oz struggling to hold them. And I think the reasons, right, were discussed by those voters that Oz is an outsider. And you heard the one voter say, yeah, I kind of like Fetterman. I like him. And why do they like him? Well, they see him as, she used the word values, I think, if I was right, that they see him as connected. And this gives him an opportunity, he being Fetterman, to make some inroads in groups, white working class Pennsylvanians that President Trump has dominated in, and Republicans have made lots of gains. I don't think Fetterman's going to be able to flip that back to a time when Democrats dominated in that area, but certainly he can cut into the margin in Pennsylvania. Margins matter. It's a tight, competitive state. So I think those interviews were telling of some of the challenges that Republican candidates are going to have to overcome if they're going to win in this cycle that's still good for them.
Yeah, just what you described with John Fetterman, that's been part of his strategy going into some of these more red counties. And like you said, not necessarily flipping them, but cutting the margin down. And if you look at what Joe Biden did in 2020 in Pennsylvania, it was sort of the opposite of that, where he increased the margins that Hillary Clinton got in some counties, particularly the suburban counties around Philadelphia. And that is how he was able to win statewide, or one of the ways he was able to win statewide. One of the other things that's interesting is a few days after this rally, Dr. Oz appeared with Senator Pat Toomey, who is a Republican like the former president, but voted for his impeachment and has been very clear about the fact that former President Trump did not win the 2020 election. So he has stood apart from him on some things. And Oz appeared with him after appearing with Trump. So you can see, kind of the different factions of the party that he's also having to balance.
This really great point, Lauren, is that Oz is trying to find a path to win, 50 plus 1 votes, 50% plus 1 in Pennsylvania. And how do you do that? Well, President Trump wasn't able to do it in 2020. While other Republicans were winning statewide offices like treasurer and auditor general in the state. So if you're just right now looking at a recipe to win Pennsylvania, and Oz is looking for that, and he's thinking, well, I certainly need the president's backing to get energy and his movement voters with me, but I need more. I'll need some more. And so Pat Toomey, as you mentioned, Senator Toomey, who voted for impeachment and has been a critic of President Trump in a lot of ways, having his voice, and along with that, Lauren, Dr. Oz said, well, he would have voted to support Biden's, to basically prove his election, which
he would not have objected to the certification or the counting of the ballots, which some people, some members of Congress did. That was one of the questions he was asked the other day when he appeared with Senator Toomey. Yeah. All right, we've got one more person to hear from. This is a business owner from Bensalem. Take a listen.
We're here because this is actually we the people. We the people want to take, America back from the politicians, because it seems to be slanted that way. And that's why a lot of people like President Trump. So it's as plain and simple as that. And a lot of differences on both sides, but when it comes down to it, I was just saying, our forefathers, they lost their fortunes, their properties, and everything to serve. Now, politicians just serve for themselves, and it's time to stop it. It's time to turn it around.
So you guys are from Bucks County. How long did it take you to get here today?
We drug our feet in just a couple hours.
It's worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We were at the rallies in Newtown. I actually was invited to the inauguration and served as a volunteer down there. And it's always a great crowd. It's always a great crowd.
President Trump's going to be speaking, and so is Dr. Oz and Doug Mastriano. How do you feel about Oz and Mastriano this year?
Oz, initially I was on the fence with him. I like him. Mastriano, I think he'll do a good job. I mean, actually, the last 2 governors of Pennsylvania were kind enough to raise taxes on us. I'm a business owner. And it's like, when does it end? When does it end? If it's not the feds, that are getting in your pocket, it's your local government. And it's too much government.
What, so you say you're a business owner. What would you like to see? What are you hoping for if, for example, Doug Mastriano were to win the governor's seat?
Well, they can back off on the tax gas. They can, I own trucks. The amount of taxes we pay for trucks is just astronomical. And it's for the road system that is falling apart. So how do you do that math? The tens of thousands of dollars just I put in. How is it that my trucks are getting beat up on these roadways? It's just, math doesn't add up.
And you said you weren't sure about Oz at first, but he's won you over?
He has.
How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I'm not a big fan of, the Hollywood, because I don't think anything good comes out of Hollywood. But, with Trump's endorsement was huge, and Trump's not a politician; he's a businessman, and that's what we needed. I think it's going to be a landslide. I think we're really going to take over.
You think Trump's going to run again?
Yes.
Do you want him to run again?
Oh, absolutely. He's going to run. I'm confident of that.
So that is, of course, one of the questions that remains as we head toward the midterms. And it brings us to the larger question of what is the impact of Donald Trump and Joe Biden on this election where they are not on the ballot?
Yeah, it's amazingly important question, Lauren. And historically, as someone that studies elections, particularly in Pennsylvania, incumbent president or presidents that are in office at this time have a big effect on the midterm elections because it's some ways a referendum on them. They're not on the ballot. So voters like to say, hey, we're not all that pleased with the direction. And right now, there's lots of indications that voters are displeased. And the president's party pays a price. And in normal cycle, that might be the end of the story. This isn't a normal cycle. We talked earlier about reproductive rights and the historic decision in the Dobbs case, making it not very normal. We don't have that kind of backdrop to look at in a lot of midterm elections. And we certainly don't have in the history of the US a president who lost, like Donald Trump did, become the center of the next election. Usually presidents that have lost walk off and start working on their presidential libraries or picking up a hobby or traveling. Former President Trump has not done that. He's remained at the center of American political debate. You turn the TV on or radio or listen to a podcast, and often the focus is Donald Trump. And so in this midterm election, Donald Trump's presence is a significant factor. Democrats, I believe, would like him to be a big focus of this race. They think ultimately that's what won them the White House last time, is opposition to Donald Trump and energy derived in many ways, not so much from Joe Biden, but from Trump. And so his presence is felt. The voter that you just said, we know how impactful President Trump has been in Republican primaries. His endorsed candidates have won all over the place, including in Pennsylvania. What's going to be fascinating this cycle, I think, is a big test. If, let's just say, Senator Mastriano and Dr. Oz don't prevail in Pennsylvania and they were endorsed by the president, does that really start to raise bigger questions about the president's negative impact on the Republican Party and to get things done? And that voter that from Bucks County, who to me had some traditional Republican things, taxes, anti-tax government regulation has been the cornerstone of Republican ideology in Pennsylvania and beyond for years, and he holds those. What if because Trump-based candidates can't get elected, those policies aren't changed or there is no voice there? There's going to be some questions raised, and we'll see after November. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves thinking about post-election already.
We like to think ahead. All right, Chris Borick from Muhlenburg College, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Really enjoyed it. And we're going to do more of this. We're going to be talking to candidates. We're going to be talking to voters as we continue this podcast and continue our coverage on NBC 10. And also you can get our coverage on NBC10.com as well. So we will see you soon. For now, I'm Lauren Mayk.